Hey guys, welcome back to another video on F1 Hub, and in today's video we're going to review the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix. So of course this is the last race before the summer break and the last review, but do not worry, I'll be covering everything in the next coming weeks of everything that's happened so far in F1 2024. So if you do not want to miss any of that, please, if you do enjoy this, please subscribe so you don't miss it. And let's get started with FP1, which is dominated by Max Verstappen, who is on another league to the rest of the field. So Verstappen, despite having a 10 place grid penalty, which means even if he does start on pole position, he'll have a 10 place grid penalty put into 11th, then Verstappen is going to win this race, and it's not even going to be close. Moving on, Sergio Perez was struggling too, and I mean, that happens every single weekend, so we can just move on, right? Right. What else was going on? Yes, Esteban Ocon had an issue with his Alpine, which is no stranger to issues. Esteban Ocon last year had the most retirements out of every single driver in the entire field. So it looks as if Esteban Ocon's going to try and repeat that. The team also got their own special Deadpool and Wolverine livery that looks about 100 times better than the one they've already got. So personally, I think they should keep that, but probably they won't. It's a great movie, by the way. Moving on. In free practice, Oscar Piastri had a moment nearly going off into the gravel, which could have cost him lap time, except Piastri still went in second place, which is a good effort. Alex Albon also was looking quick in the Williams, going third in FP1 before falling down to 17th in FP2 and seeing that everyone was annoying but didn't really explain why. Moving on to that said FP2 session, Lando Norris topped the session in a McLaren 1-2 with Oscar Piastri in second, inching out Max Verstappen in the lead Red Bull. I mean, I don't even have to say the lead Red Bull. It's obvious, isn't it? Perez was getting close to the McLaren store, literally getting the closest to the McLaren as he would all weekend long, stopping in a Rouge and letting the McLaren go by, showing the clear pace difference between the two drivers, noting how quick Norris was going through a Rouge. Let's go to FP3 then, because nothing happened in FP2, and Max Verstappen went off the road in his Red Bull as the rain continued to come down. The Red Bull drivers chasing down another pole position today, but it's unlikely he'll be able to do that with a 10 place grid penalty. He wasn't the only one as off the road with Lando Norris in his McLaren too. Also chasing another pole position, except he has a shot of doing it. Also off the road was Yuki Tsunoda as the rain continuing to hammer down, with rain expected, according to Daniel Ricciardo's race engineer, to come within 5 to 10 minutes. And when it rained, it poured, and that could be the exact same thing said for Lance Stroll, who crashed into the barriers at FP3. That would be a disaster for Aston Martin, especially since he's on a strong run of form, and everyone in the comment section for every Stroll crash video was saying, oh my god, why is he in F1 for? I'm keen to point out, and I've done a whole video about this, is that Lance Stroll's actually been good this year, and anyone who says otherwise can just, yeah. Let's just move on then, and the rain continued to fall. A red flag came out, so we had a good 20 minutes of watching a safety car go around the Belgian Grand Prix circuit. As fun as that sounds to EA Sports and F1 22 fans, it wasn't that fun for an actual running session, and that means no one really got to improve, and it was Verstappen, Piastri and Gasly completing the top 3 at the end of the session, with Lewis Hamilton only 9th and for Mercedes. So let's move on to qualifying, and Verstappen's radio rants continued, with the rain coming down and hopefully an exciting qualifying session for once in the rain. Verstappen said hello and then some swearing and yeah, just like hungry. Out though in the first spot of qualifying went Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Sargent and Joe, except Tsunoda would be starting last anyway. Not great news for Yuki Tsunoda as he tries to fight for a Red Bull seat next year. Well, speaking of fighting your way through, Mercedes were looking for a double Q2 exit, along with the Ferraris also falling at risk. The Mercedes got laps to go 2nd and 3rd, but the Ferraris were perilously only 10th and 12th. That would be a disaster for them if they found themselves out, but they managed to both knock out. But meanwhile, Albon got within 3 thousandths of knocking out Sergio Perez, but he was out along with Gasly, Ricciardo, and of course Lance Stroll. Bottas as well, and I don't think anyone actually cares, so let's just move straight on to Q3, which is pretty boring. Lewis Hamilton was looking for pole position in the early runs, but then again Verstappen hadn't set a lap yet, and once he did, he knocked Hamilton off, but Hamilton was on for pole position. Get in there, since I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan. That said, Sergio Perez went straight ahead of him, and that was it. Of course, I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan. I don't go mental though if Lewis Hamilton loses pole position, like Charles Leclerc fans, for example. Anyway, moving on, it looked as if it would be Perez and Hamilton knocking out the front row. But then Charles Leclerc did a lap and actually literally nicked the pole from Perez and Hamilton, which means we have the same top 3 as last year. The chances of these 3 finishing in the podium places are very slim though, but I can't wait to see this, and I generally don't know who's going to win. Let's hope Perez can. So we went into the Grand Prix then, with Charles Leclerc getting an amazing launch, but the same could not be said for Sergio Perez, inviting the door for an early Mercedes attack. Lewis Hamilton thus went through up to second place at the start, but they went side by side. Someone who was also going side by side was Lando Norris, who decided it was a good time to lose more positions off another race start, and this time it was off into the gravel, dropping him down only 2 places ahead of fast starting Max Verstappen, who'd made up 2 places. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton, not happy just getting past Perez, decided it was time now to fight against the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. That was his next aim, of course, but it didn't matter anyway, because by the time it got to lap 3, Lewis Hamilton rolled on by past Charles Leclerc, taking the lead of another Grand Prix, and hoping to win his 105th career win. Meanwhile, his teammate George Russell had to make yet another overtake after he's been pretty bad all weekend long, to be truthful, really. Tried to go around the outside of Oscar Piastri and it didn't make it stick. Instead of Oscar Piastri, he spent the last 20 laps fighting Sergio Perez, who tried to make a desperate bid to keep in Red Bull. Speaking of Red Bull, Carlos Sainz tried to find his way to the Red Bull motorhome, except he went the wrong way by doing it in the Grand Prix and going off into the gravel. Clever move by Carlos Sainz, especially since where he finished. Moving on in the Grand Prix, Oscar Piastri got past Charles Leclerc late on, moving up to 3rd position. The poor man had not been able to hold off against the Mercedes, so is now in 3rd place. Speaking of the Mercedes, they were 1 and 2 when looking to win, but George Russell was on a 1-stop and held off all of the Lewis Hamilton attacks to win the Grand Prix. And as a Lewis Hamilton fan, you can tell how happy I am speaking this. In fact, I'm in such a bad mood, I've actually destroyed my thoughts, so I can't even shout that loud. Overall, we go off into the summer break and feeling that this has been an amazing half to the season, and I cannot wait for the second half this year. Anyway, how can it possibly get better? I'll be doing loads of content over the season break, so you can watch that. Oh wait.